Hello, everyone. This is not something that I usually do, so bear with me if this is like the first time you're ever seeing me. I'm a little nervous. I don't know why. I'm just a little nervous. It means I care, which is a good thing. I think it's kind of hard to do reviews for shows. I mean, it's not hard to do. I mean, I just click record and that's it. So much negativity and backlash comes from just saying an opinion. Although I care about what people think of me, I think I care about the fact of like what people will say. There's going to be the people that are going to be like, oh, you're wrong, stupid petty stuff that revolves around like the storytelling when it comes to wrestling. I kind of feel like I know what I'm talking about. I may not. I don't own a company. I'm literally a dude that is sitting here on YouTube just making a YouTube video, and I know I don't know a lot, so I don't need to be told that I don't know a lot. I did have experience in college with some things. I think a lot of things can come from that. Like just having the experience of being in college, I have a degree. But I kind of wanted to touch on a few things as far as what came out of Money in the Bank at the end of the whole thing. I do want to say a huge thank you also to the fact of, there was a recent interview that Small Afro did with BDE. Shout out to both of them. Obviously, I'm a smaller YouTuber, but like, if you don't know them, there you go. When Brandon was talking specifically about making videos and thinking that you're lazy because you don't want to edit them, I'm not a fan of the editing process. So even doing this, I know that I need to work for the grind to get to that point where I do have my own editor. We're here, and I think that what I want to talk about is genuinely important. The Money in the Bank. In the match itself, that moment for Drew to win it was probably just a good feeling to be able to add to the accolades of him winning Money in the Bank. With that being said, there's also a giant story of going on with Drew and CM Punk. Over the past couple of months, Punk has just been that troll that has really been, getting his way. To increase a motive for Drew to want to literally Punk at this point, this was a great approach to it. And I think that a lot of people discredited that. I do agree with the fact that Money in the Bank should be a little bit more substantial than just building a story, but at the same time, with how drastic and how crazy it's been, this would have been CM Punk's third time screwing Drew out of a match, and 3 strikes are out, buddy. Paul Heyman gives that analysis really well when he has mentioned that in the past. This is an amazing segue into them getting their match at SummerSlam so that it's a break-off feud for him to focus for WrestleMania. For Punk to focus on recovering, to focus on doing what he needs to do to storytell and get his way to WrestleMania, and looking at the small details even us as fans can't determine. So the next match, I believe the next match was Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn. I don't know if you guys have seen the video of Sami Zayn talking with the announcer backstage, talking about the fact of some people still being shocked about the fact that Sami won. I think Sami has great heart and great mindset into being the underdog of the story, and always being the underdog of the story, because Braun Breaker, Gunther, there are just a few names of people that I can only imagine that Sami overcomes. When it came to somebody like Chad Gable, that was his best friend, everybody loved Sami. And even in his hometown, people were like, I would have thought Braun would have won. I would have thought this would have happened. Kind of like a little bit of doubt, and I think that really gets to Sami. Now you're home, but you're still seeing that same reaction. It's like, what does it take? Where does it come from the head of Sami Zayn? Where does he go from here? I don't want to say that I feel bad for Sami, because he's in the position for what he has accomplished, and he has done as Intercontinental Champion, and he continues to do as Intercontinental Champion, because he's a great storyteller. He knows how to captivate a crowd. He is intelligent when it comes to crowd reception at this point. So for him to take that lead and be so intuitive with it, but also be confused at the same time, it's completely understandable. Then this is why I kind of feel like it's important to talk about this side of things, because although it's professional wrestling, although it's just stories that are like, it's a soap opera that people want to compare it to, it's a form of art, Like these people are going into boardrooms and setting up these stories, and when it's not received correctly, it's going to affect the person. Again, how do you make that positive or negative go into a positive? It's kind of like that mindset that you need to have whenever you are storytelling and when you are captivating this audience and You want to make them feel in control, but at the same time, don't want to take away that feeling of you're not listening to them. It's a hard balance, and they do it on a weekly basis, and I commend every single performer, storyteller, every person that does that really captivates the audience to their fullest extent. But congratulations to Sami. I think that he deserves to be champion, and I think that some fans may need to lay down a little bit. Sami Zayn had just came off a big win against Gunther. You really think that after a big win like that they just want to give that person who beat Gunther for the first time, that top champion, they want to give him that little, okay, yeah, segue champion, yeah, you could go to the next one. We could go to the next, like, we could go to the next big thing, which is Braun Breaker. And people are impatient. Like, Braun Breaker is going to be the face of Netflix because Braun Breaker is that guy. Honestly. And he has every right to have that motive. I mean, honestly, I don't think there's a lot of guys that can actually go to the status that Braun Breaker can if they just kind of wait on it. Like, if Braun Breaker were to not get an Intercontinental Championship win, but were able to hypothetically maybe beat Gunther at WrestleMania. If he beats Gunther for that championship within the time frame that we have now cutting into 2025, and Braun Breaker is the champion by that point, that means a lot more, I would think, to the outside viewer being like, oh, he's their top guy going into Netflix. He is their top guy that they're putting all of that into. I don't want to say that I'm talking on their behalf. I'm just some mark that's on the internet. I'm just some mark that's on the internet that's just kind of looking at things that should be looked at just in a bigger picture. The next match that we had on the card was Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins. Now, this match, I have a lot of things to talk about. I don't know if you guys can tell that I am a person that supports Damian Priest. I'm wearing a shirt literally right now. I have a lot of faith in Damian Priest's title reign. I think he's done a lot since he started here. He really freaking shockwaved the world because he was friends with Bad Bunny and got Bad Bunny to be a part of everything. He did a lot as far as bringing in those numbers for Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico was such a hot crowd. I don't think a lot of people even saw that coming, that Puerto Rico was going to be that hot for Bad Bunny because Puerto Ricans wear their flag with pride. Absolutely. And I think people just kind of on Damian because they don't believe in what he says, which I kind of agree with. I kind of do think that sometimes his promos could be a little lackluster, but, you know, that's okay. He's not, I don't think he really cut a lot of promos as the United States champion. So for him to kind of step into that front role and just learn along the way, he's been really good with that and learning the business and learning the storytelling side of it. Going into the match, Damian Priest was definitely not the fan favorite. Seth Rollins was the favorite, but we also had the idea and the mentality that Drew was going to be cashing in Money in the Bank because he did say on the weeks prior that he was going to cash in on the same night, and he made that very clear. My thought and initial prediction, also after hearing other people's opinions on it, was if he's going to be cashing in, Punk's got something to do with it. And I think that's why they had to do that. Punk costing him the Money in the Bank was one thing, but Punk costing him another championship match is another. Granted, yes, they could have taken the Money in the Bank approach, but I think costing for a world championship is a lot more serious. Like, he had the opportunity again in the palm of his hands and got it screwed over by Punk. So that storytelling just, again, it builds up. And that built up anger, and it even trickled onto the post-show. I don't know whoever has seen the post-show. I suggest that you do see it for the post-show panel. Drew flipped out. It trended on Twitter. He went onto the show, and he was like, screw it. I'm not caring about what anybody says. He hit Adam Pearce. He had to have Wade Barrett back him up and everything like that. Like, there was definitely some hostility there. I think a lot of people are just impatient and being like, hey, we wasted the briefcase with that. But at the same time, there's more to this story. Even Damian Priest, for example. Seth Rollins pinning Damian Priest with his shoulders to the mat, which was a 3 count. I'm not even going to deny that that was a 3 count, for sure. But I do think that Damian doesn't deserve the backlash for, you know, the storytelling that he's done over the past couple of weeks with the Judgment Day, with the amount of, like, just, you know, backing up what he can do. I mean, even pushing through that last match at Clash of the Castle, getting his leg tied up into the ropes. It was insanity to see that visual image of that. I literally thought he broke his shin. It was terrifying to witness, but it happened. And they rolled through it, and he pushed through it. It was awesome. It was great to see that he was back on the show the next week, like the next day, pretty much, working and still being on the show, giving a little time probably for that leg to recover. It was great on it, and I'm glad that that happened, and that he was still able to still perform and be on the shows weekly and week out, to not forget his name. People forget that. People forget those. It's very easy to pick on the negative when you're so focused on the in present time. I do have some other notes after. It's very unfortunate that people want to focus on that 3 count. And honestly, because I think the biggest issue with people that complain about things like that are just so problematic is there's nothing to back it up. Like, there's no follow-up of what they could do better. I'm not saying that, you know, it's a mistake and it shouldn't be addressed, because I think it should be addressed. Even like Triple H, when he was at the press conference at the end of the show, said, I'm going to have a talk with the referee and see what he didn't see. I'm going to have a talk with Priest and just, you know, get the rundown from his point of view and everybody's perspective. And we're going to figure this out. And that's the whole point of professional wrestling. You know, you make the story on the go with the way the people react. And unfortunately, there's people that are in this community that, no one in particular, but that just complain and don't have a resolution for it. If you're going to post something on Twitter, just have a follow-up of being like, it doesn't take more than 2 seconds to blast an idea. Because who knows? I mean, I'm not saying that it is going to be seen by the people, that it's not going to be seen. And if it's something that you think should be changed but isn't, you know, it's not your creative direction. It's what they want. It's what the company wants to see. And they are probably going to approach it on Raw. They're probably going to acknowledge the whole thing regarding it. They're going to get past it. It's a shame that that had to be what people want to focus on, because Damian has been a good champion. He's done his part. I think that when he even won, I've never said this before, but I think that when he brought Bad Bunny as a market to the business, this was his thank you toward them. Like, this was his thank you from the company of being like, you did this for us. Thank you for doing this. Here's your moment. And also his backstory. I know they're coming out with a documentary, so he's had his hardship, but he's done his part to bring in the business, and he's done that. That's all I have to say about that. And as a fellow Puerto Rican, I kind of feel it's crazy that, you know, this one guy, because if it was anybody else, if it was, let's say, an example, like Chad Gable, if he were to mess something up as far as not kicking out, maybe it'd be looked over, maybe it wouldn't, maybe it's just a build, because who knows, we can all just be being worked about the fact that Damian never kicked out, but also the fact that Seth had the pin on him. This gives Seth that motive to still want to be world champion, but also at the same time, now Punk is involved with this with Drew, and CM Punk, in a way, getting at Drew also got to Seth. The next match is the Women's Money in the Bank match. Tiffany Stratton, man, being Miss Money in the Bank was so cool in the moment. This was my favorite match of the night, period. This was, I think, a staple to show everybody that the women can do it like the men. And I think that this was a real pinnacle moment of that. Not that the women's revolution was not a thing back then, because they really did put the, you know, the matches together, but also this was in NXT. NXT at the time was a low-key market for WWE as an investment for those that were super fans, and they brought that to the main roster. They brought them to the main roster, but they couldn't do as much because of the risque things that they would do in NXT. But now that WWE's under new management, the roles have changed a little bit. To see the visual of Zoe Stark doing that move, and I hope she's okay. That back of the head hit looked terrible. And on top of that, taking that huge driver on the top of the ladder, it was insane. And I hope that she is actually okay, because that hit to the back of the head looked really bad. Another thing is Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green falling off of that ladder from that high in the air. She did it in NXT. She did it here. She's done it outside of the business when she has fought with other men. It was awesome. It was sick to see. That visual was insanity. But people never saw the one on NXT because of how crazy for the main brands, I would say. And lastly, Tiffany Stratton winning the Money in the Bank. Now, this has nothing to do with the match. Tiffany, I bet, is going to be a great Money in the Bank holder. I think everybody knows that she's going to bedazzle and put a lot of pink on that. And she's going to do what it takes to make that Money in the Bank feel like the most important thing in the world. I do want to respond, and I want to say something that I don't want to seem like I'm insulting the career paths of journalists. I don't want to seem like I'm just trying to crap on their success, because honestly, I just think that anything that's better for the product, anything that's better for the post-show, makes it look good. And at the end of the day, I want to remind everybody, these entertainers are also entertainers. They are meant to captivate you as an audience. It's like, put it this way. If you're asking the character of a TV show what's going to happen next for their story, why would they tell you? At the press conference, she answered 3 questions that were worded differently toward the same motive of what's next. Where I don't think that that's bad, because I think it's important to captivate the fans of, yes, what's next for Tiffany Stratton. But at the same time, it kind of just is a question that a fan would ask. And I understand, obviously, the people in the press are fans. They always will be. And I'm glad that they have a fan base that is so dedicated that they want to go out of their way to spend money to go to these press conferences and to have these conversations with the wrestlers. Just ask them one question that they think is important. She won the Money in the Bank contract that night. This is her breakout time. If you really think about it, this is going to be the key to her becoming a world champion. I think that, just asking her, how did it feel to be at the top of that ladder holding that briefcase up at the end of the night? I feel like that would have really hit more than just being asked, like, I don't know, it would make her think, which would make the audience more captivated into her character. Because then there are going to be those super fans that are going to watch the next night and that are going to care about her character and everything like that. It gives a personality, not just asking her, oh, so what are you going to do with this briefcase? What's next is not the question that should be asked in those kind of situations. I'm going to keep repeating it because I don't want any of this to be taken out of context. I don't want any of this to seem like I know everything, because I don't. You got to look at it from that way. You should at least be open-minded to the point of, like, she just had this incredible moment in front of this entire crowd. How did it feel to be in that atmosphere? What was her thoughts going into the match or going through the curtain? Who were her first people to thank? There's a lot with that. And subtracting the individual from the talent of the individual, I think really speaks volumes. And I think John Cena also brought that a lot up in his points when he was answering all those insane amount of questions. And then the final match of the night, Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton versus the Bloodline. I'm going to say this flat out. The Bloodline winning was the right decision. It makes them look unstoppable. Jacob Fatu, I will say, I'm glad that they're kind of preserving Jacob for what they are doing, because it's the right way to do it. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you've seen any of the things that Jacob Fatu can do. If you look on TikTok, by all means, you will find it very easily. Jacob Fatu is a demon in the ring, and they are preserving that moveset, and I'm very happy that they are. It makes you want, to find out what's next. He did that super crazy whisper in the wind type of move, so for him to be, doing a move of that stature in that group, like an assassin, is sick. It's like a vigilante. Solo pinning Cody also is a great build for it, and I think they're going to continue this story, and it's going to lead to something greater than ever when it comes to Solo, when it comes to Cody, when it comes to Roman, because I have a feeling Roman will be at SummerSlam. When you get into the parameters as to why that this makes sense and why it makes sense for them to do it, managing all of these stories at one time is a difficult task to do, and you know that there are going to be those people that are not happy with the booking decisions, and that's okay. You can disagree with it. What I don't agree with is you going out of your way to make other people feel like shit for things that were out of their control, because you think what they did wasn't enough or didn't make sense. The reality of it is, we are not in control of it. They are our puppeteers, and we are the puppets watching from the outside. We don't know what goes on backstage. We don't know how everybody is going to react. The wrestling community, I think, especially as of recent, as far as the years go on, I think will just have, you know, secrets that will be exploited and everything like that. But there will always be a team that will make the story happen, control the crowd as best as they can, and make the audience feel. And I think that that's the point of it. For everybody that's saying that title runs are too long, for people that are saying transitional champion, because I hate that terminology. That was an old mindset that we had before, and I think we're in a new generation that's not the case. Horrible booking decisions that were back in the day that we're so accustomed to. We should not have that mindset anymore. That with everybody thinking that they're entitled just because they have an opinion. And I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this video, but thank you for having the time of just hearing me out and hearing my takes on things. Who knows? Maybe I'll do a video for Heatwave if this one does that well. Take care, guys. Have a good rest of your night. Peace out.